Okay, thanks for joining me for part two. And I did remember what I blanked out on in number one. I'll get to that in a second. I hope I can hold it online in mind in my faulty short-term working memory, which is a major core symptom of this disorder. Okay. Another reason it's on my mind so much is because I mentioned earlier I'm looking to become a psychotherapist. And recently I attended a 2-day intensive workshop on assessment difficulties that are associated with this disorder, all kinds of issues that are related. It was a workshop, an accredited workshop with an audience almost entirely of psychotherapists and social workers and people who deal with mental health issues. And the other workshop I attended was one on integrative treatment for this disorder. I'm just a layperson, so I should say that right at the outset. I don't have any medical expertise, and I am not even a registered counselor yet. And anything that I say here is as a regular person in the street. But it is also the case that I'm very uncommonly informed. Because once I figured out that, all caps, this was what was wrong with me, that this was sort of the tree trunk of a bunch of branches of difficulties, struggles that I'd always had in life that I couldn't explain. It's called, it's not uncommon amongst people who have ADHD, the adults, to say, you had the ADHD epiphany, where one day all of a sudden you put it together, or someone put it together for you, a clinician put it together for you, that you had this. Anyway, my reaction to that was to do basically like an independent master's thesis of amount and level of research into the disorder. I found a lot of comfort and a lot of stimulation in that. ADHD people, we like stimulation. We like mental stimulation. We like all kinds of stimulation because stimulation causes neurotransmitter effects that redress some of the chronic difficulties we have with the executive functioning system of the brain, which is really the center of what this is all about, this disorder. Yes, so those are my qualifications right there. But I can tell you that the stuff that I'll be talking about is, I can give you references if you would like. And they are from the foremost medical experts in the field, as well as foremost clinical experts in the field with this disorder, people who have treated and assessed and followed and given psychotherapy to, in some cases, literally thousands of adults and children with this disorder. So that kind of leads nicely into, here's the thing. A couple of the objections, I'm going to go into that in this video, maybe in the next one too. It seems like most of the objections to even believing in ADHD, as if it were fucking Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy or, something like that, the afterlife, they kind of fall into two very broad categories. One is the legitimacy one. Is it real? Is this something that actually exists as it is described? The second sort of branch of objections go into a lot of concern about, this is how I would characterize it, a lot of potential abuses of an ADHD diagnosis. So they're people who are very resistant to they're very, very, very leery of the disorder being invoked as an explanation for certain people's problems, or a partial explanation at least. So I'm going to try and address some in each of those. Starting with the is it real? Here's what people who would like to strenuously object to its very existence. Here's my task for you. This is my task for you, and I think it's a legitimate one. You should realize that science is not on your side whatsoever in this matter. There are literally thousands of articles in peer-reviewed medical journals, gold standard, scientific data that substantiate that this is something that is going on with people in a pretty predictable way, going back decades. And in fact, the very first excellent clinical description of ADHD, the oldest known one, is from the late 1700s on the part of a physician in New England in, I can't remember 1770 what, but who in the annals of medicine gave an excellent clinical description of a patient who had ADHD. And he went into quite exquisite detail about what the symptomology was. And it absolutely is what you would see in any sort of in-depth report on someone suffering from this disorder these days. So number one, all this stuff about it's the pace of modern life, and it's this interaction with all of these electronic devices that are causing our brains to become disrupted. Those of us whose are. It's much more likely the case. It's first of all, no, that doesn't account for this disorder at all, because if that were the case, then everybody would have it, and they don't. The actual prevalence rate in the adult population is between 4 and 5%. So about 1 in 22 people has this. Very, 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 very few of those 1 people in 22 know they have this. Anyway, sorry, I'll get into that soon. And there also is so as to whether these symptoms exist and these clusters of symptoms exist, and whether or not there is a syndrome of this clustering of symptoms that kind of have a pervasive and devastating effect, if unmanaged, on a person's life, there is absolutely zero controversy about that among the informed. If you're completely ignorant, however, and have all kinds of strong opinions about it and haven't done any of that medical research, here's what you should do in order to have a respectable objection, an intellectually respectable one, is that you've done an enormous amount of research into the matter in medical literature. So screw all the newspaper articles with a bunch of editors meeting a deadline who are making it's a disorder that just really lends itself to all kinds of projections and total horseshit on the part of people who have lots of strong feelings about it, lots of made up, lots of ideas about it, but that's apparently they give themselves a license to publish stuff in the lay press that has no medical research behind it whatsoever. And it's one of the many, 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 many things that makes me very angry, very frustrated. I don't know how they can, how they're not ashamed of themselves for doing that, but anyway. Anyway, off topic. Here we go, off topic. So know that you are not on the side of science whatsoever. So get to know the science before you object to it. Then, additionally, this is sort of the mark you should be trying to hit. The best going theory about it these days, which has gained a lot of ground and has gained so much ground and makes so much sense that I will be very surprised if this theory does not cause the name of the disorder to be changed again. We're on name number 6 or so at this point with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, which is a terrible name. I'm going to get into that in a minute. A terribly misleading and confusing and off-point label for what this disorder actually is about. The most current theory going, which has been pretty widely adopted at this point, is called the executive functioning theory of causality, or rather, not causality, but that makes sense of, it links up the neuroanatomy irregularities to the cognitive distortions to the behavioral effects of the disorder, and it makes sense of all of them very well, according to clinicians that have an enormous amount of experience in this field, an enormous amount of knowledge. We don't have anything better at this point. So that's your task, people. Those of you who want to go on and on and on and on about how it doesn't exist and it's illegitimate and blah blah blah. I think that's what you need to be addressing. And if you can do that, all right, you've got my ear about it. Really. Okay. So where are we at with the time? Oh, we're already at 10 minutes. I'm going to make another video in that case.